Viewers, let's open this up to our panel. And I want to begin with J. Sai Deepak, advocate who also practices in the Supreme Court, very learned lawyer who has written a number of books on diverse themes. I want to begin with you, Mr. Sai Deepak, today with the same question I just posed to Justice Dhingra. Do you believe the Supreme Court has forever prejudiced Nupur Sharma's case? Yes, I know that these observations that were made are not part of written record, but nonetheless, they were widely circulated, widely.
So I tend to agree with Justice Dhingra on the point that the observations have an impact on the reputation of a person and also have the impact of creating a chilling effect as far as free speech is concerned, especially in matters of religion. But as he said, it does not amount to prejudicing the case on merits. I hope nobody actually uses this or cites this. See, ultimately you have to realize one thing. As far as even the law is concerned, even assuming for a moment that something had been said and had been captured in the order, the law is very clear that if a comment is captured in writing, even in the order, which has got nothing to do with the issue before a particular bench, even that observation does not have the force of law. It is called obiter dicta. Okay. Now, given the fact that the original petition before this bench was for clubbing of FIRs, any comment with respect to the merits, assuming that it had been captured in the order, even that would have to be ignored because that was not the issue before the court. Considering that in this case, even that was not captured in the order and was merely made for, let's say, made during the course of the hearing without being captured in the order, it cannot and hopefully should not have any bearing at all. But the one thing that we have to bear in mind is that during the analysis of exercise of free speech, the one factor that is typically considered in jurisdictions across the world is whether the person who's exercising his free speech is conscious of his position and his ability to shape opinions and influence opinions. So for instance, if I were to make a statement as a private citizen, that has a certain impact. But if a person holding a public office such as the Prime Minister or a constitutional organ such as the Supreme Court makes a statement, then it has a specific bearing. It has a certain consequence. Therefore, you're expected to understand the reach and strength of your punch when you land that punch the moment you occupy a position of responsibility. Notwithstanding the fact it may not have a, let's say, a direct or a theoretical bearing, it still has a bearing as far as the court of public opinion is concerned. So to that extent, I would say that while it may not affect the final analysis on merits, it certainly has the effect of telling people these are subjects that are not to be touched henceforth, or there would be serious consequences to the extent that you may be denied basic reliefs which ought to have been granted in the first place. Therefore, my simple submission here is the order of 10th of August 2022 is the simple order the court perhaps ought to have passed on the 26th of May itself without having landed into these kind of issues. Now, the good part about, let's say, both the orders, at least to some extent, is the first order does not mention anything on merits, and the order of 10th of August clearly says that the bench does not express any opinion on the merits or the allegations contained in these FIRs. So for all practical purposes, the order of 26th of May has merged into the order of 10th of August. Therefore, to that extent, this secures Nupur Sharma's position as far as her defense on merits is concerned, as and when that situation arises, either in a 226 or a 482, that's for her to take call.
Okay. Dr. Ranganathan, let me weave you in and then I'll open it up to Mr. Ratan Sharda. There are some other very pressing questions. Tausifur Rahman, Vikraman S., spokesperson of the VCK, and Abdul Razak Khan, political analyst here. Dr. Ranganathan, you've heard two very learned, one justice, one advocate, very learned individuals who are very conversant with the law of the land. But one gets the impression, and I don't know if you share this point of view, one gets the impression that perhaps the Supreme Court could have been a little more magnanimous, Dr. Ranganathan, by coming out and saying, look, you know, we perhaps, as Justice Dhingra said, perhaps crossed the Lakshman Rekha. Do you get that same sense, or is it just me? Because many people are accusing me of being biased towards Nupur and therefore letting my biases prevail.
I've been blown away by the remarkable views of Justice Dhingra. I mean, his stature has grown in my eyes by what he said. It is a pity that only a retired judge has made such stinging remarks against what happened and what the Supreme Court did. Unfortunately, we live in a society where the practicing judges are still in service. None of those have remarked upon what the Supreme Court did. There are two issues here, Rahul, and because this is Converse, everyone's having a wonderful discussion. It allows me to, let the dust of my thoughts settle. So, as I see it, there are two important issues. Number one is, of course, the comment on what Jay Sai also elaborated on, and Justice Dhingra did, and you have been, that the Supreme Court has acted a couple of days ago how it should have a month ago. Now, I have always believed as a man of science that law should also be as replicable and reproducible and to fall back upon as science is. There is no point if in science one day you think of something and the other day you dispute that and say, look, this is not what we've come up with. Law should be banked upon, it is bankable. But what we saw a couple of days ago was, yes, delivery of justice. But what we saw a month and a half ago was throttling of it at the hands of midwives meant to deliver it. And that is why I say that the absurdity of any law, by which I mean the 295A under which Nupur has been charged, the absurdity soon brings out the absurdity in those tasked with implementing it. And that is what exactly happened and what Justice Dhingra has actually now commented upon. Now, let me quote here verbatim a few oral remarks made by those two judges, and you will see exactly what I mean. The two judges were Justice Suryakant and J.P. Pardiwala. When they, a month and a half ago, refused to entertain the exact same plea that they have done now, given relief to Nupur, which was to club multiple FIRs against her. Quote, you have ignited the whole country. You are single-handedly responsible for the burnings in the country. Your statement is responsible for the unfortunate killing in Udaipur. You should apologize to the whole country for your remarks. Power has gone to your head. You made irresponsible statements without an inkling of the ramifications and serious consequences, that how seriously it will disturb the fabric of the society, end quote. And in the intervening month and a half, after those remarks, more than half a dozen people have been brutally attacked just for supporting Nupur. Prateek, Neeraj, Satyendra, Ayush, Mahendra, Umesh. Who will take responsibility for this, Rahul? The two judges? Who will apologize? Who will be held accountable? It is all right for people to say that the oral remarks do not go into the final remarks. But if those two remarks are, by those two judges are held seriously, they should at least apologize, be held accountable. Their blaming Nupur was akin to blaming the Kashmiri Hindus for their own murder, rape, and cleansing because they were prosperous or held good jobs in Kashmir. It was akin to
the Brits blaming Rushdie for the fatwa on him, or the French blaming Charlie Hebdo journalist and Samuel Paty for their murders. The justices, moreover, set aside precedents and settled law. Goswami and others to quote one. They mocked her plea. They ignored what had happened. Yes. The barbarians were waiting for her at the gate, and a few days ago, they wiped the slate clean as though nothing had happened. Rahul, yes, justice was delivered finally, but it was delayed. And point number two, very briefly, you see, this is also the crux of the matter which judges and lawyers like Jay Sai and Dhingra should elaborate on, should discuss this. The judges claimed Nupur Sharma displayed loose tongue. I'm sorry, it wasn't Nupur Sharma, but rather the two Supreme Court judges who displayed it. And that is the thing with the oral remarks, they carry weight. They are taken seriously by the lower courts, by the political parties, by the citizens, and also by the media. The media and the Congress, remember, Rahul, amplified from rooftops for 10 years when the court called Narendra Modi a modern-day Nero in 2002. Did it not? It was an oral remark. Later on, the same Supreme Court acquitted Modi of all charges, but still the opposition called him modern-day Nero. Another example, Madras High Court recently called the Election Commission a murderer should be tried for murder charges.
Yes.
The EC went to the Supreme Court to get the remarks expunged, but the Supreme Court refused to expunge them. And by the way, who can forget the caged parrot remarks that the SC made on the CBI that we still quote freely? But in the Nupur case, the ramifications are very serious. I mean, CBI, everyone calls a caged parrot. But the problem with Nupur and the oral remarks made by the judges were, it gave validity. It buttressed the Sir Sanjay Juda gang, and the proof was in the pudding in the intervening month and a half when 6 people have been attacked. All those people who attacked those 6 people moral remarks, they have to be expunged, I'm afraid, and the Supreme Court should render an apology if we are to move ahead.
Well, I would have gone straight across to Mr. Ratan Sharda, except for the fact that Abdul Razak Khan has raised his hand, and I will bring him into this. He's raised his hand because obviously he's not agreeing with what Dr. Ranganathan has said. So I'm asking you this question. Mr. Khan, this is what Justice Dhingra has told us, and you heard him. Observations, in a sense, dilute barbaric Udaipur beheadings. And I want to therefore ask you, on the back of these observations, do you believe that the sustained targeting of Nupur using Sartan Se Juda has mainstreamed this intolerance slogan? My worry is that we have just reported in Jaunpur, in a Muharram procession, people are, chanting this slogan. Now, sir, I'm sorry to say this, but a large number of politicians in this country, when they hear Jai Shri Ram, they convulse. Unko pasine aa jate hain. They say that, oh, this is a weaponized hate slogan. They are coming for us. They means the Hindu supremacists. But here the justices are unfortunately, perceptionally, giving a virtual exoneration of this dastardly beheading and this constant chanting of Sartan Se Juda. Razak Saab.
Rahul ji, sabse pehle, first of all, I would want to comment on what Anand Ranganathan ji spoke. Are we really seeking an apology from the Supreme Court judges for their oral remarks? Does Mr. Ranganathan really respect this country? Does he know that this woman, her callous, deplorable, unwanted remarks shamed this country? 21 countries registered their protest
Which
by
21
recalling
countries?
their envoys
No, you
and
tell me which
ambassadors.
21 countries? Which 21 countries? Saudi Arabia?
21.
Saudi Arabia, your Mecca?
I
I'll tell you.
can
No, one
read
minute,
out
one
the
minute.
names of
Enough
the
of this. Enough of this. Enough of this.
right
If you
from
believe that
Qatar
Saudi
to
Arabia
Bahrain
holds
to
a...
Turkey.
No, one minute.
Come on.
Razak साहब एक
Rahul
मिनट मेरी बात
ji,
सुन
Rahul
लीजिए
ji,
नहीं एक
please
मिनट मेरी
hold
बात
your
सुनिए
horses.
30 seconds
Please
I've
hold
had
your
it with people
horses.
poking us in the
Let us
eye
not
with this
give in
indignation
to
that
this
was expressed
majoritarian
by Saudi
mindset.
Arabia. Now viewers,
Let
I'm
us
lowering your
not
fader,
give
sir.
in.
Give me 30 seconds to
Rahul.
intervene. I'll let you speak after that or as much as you want to. Please, just 30 seconds. We are being held up. The example of Saudi Arabia is being held up. You know that guy who rules Saudi Arabia now by de facto, that Mohammed MBS or whatever they call him, he landed up to have dinner with the French president. That same French president, just about 2 weeks ago, you check, that same French president who said that Samuel Paty is a national hero. And what did Samuel Paty say, sir? What did he say? He picked up the cartoons of the Prophet and shared it amongst his students. ऐसे बिके हुए लोग हैं, sir, MBS and company. So don't throw this MBS example and these countries which are fulminating in our face. Dr. Ranganathan also wants to come in on this point. Yes, doctor.
Yes,
International
thank you very much. I would
relations.
normally...
You should
I would
understand
normally
what
not
are
interrupt.
international relations.
अरे सर तेल के लिए वो कुछ भी बेच देंगे आप छोड़िए. Please don't argue with me. Am I wrong when I'm saying MBS dined with? Do you accept the fact that MBS dined? Did he not dine? Did he not wine? And did he not dine? I'm asking you. Did he not dine? It was his home. MBS invited this chap to his own home. Now you tell me something.
Hold it.
No, what do you hold it? Don't give me this. Don't give me this, sir. सारे दुनिया के minorities को खत्म कर दिया है और आप मुझे बता रहे हैं गलत बात है गलत बात
Some woman.
First of all, you respect your language. I'm lowering your fader. Razak Khan, no, this is not the way you speak. This is not the way you speak. This is not the way. Please, this is not the way. Person has a name.
Rahul, can I please come in now? Thank you. I want to take the... can you hear me, Rahul?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to take the advantage of Mr. Razak being muted because he won't like what I have to say. It is ironical that you got him as one of the panelists because he was one of the panelists who condoned and applauded the beheading of Kamlesh Tiwari live on national television. He is the one who condoned Sar Sanjay Jada's slogan. He said, why should I condemn what happened to Kamlesh Tiwari? It is good what has happened to Kamlesh Tiwari. These are people who normalize these
You are
behaviors,
wrong.
Rahul.
Anchor did not allow me to put my words, to place my words. Anchor did not allow me.
बोलिए सर, आप
Madhav did
बोलिए.
not allow me
But don't
to
throw
complete
this
my
red
words.
rag in our faces.
It all got over.
Rahul, I will play that bite. I will play that bite. Meanwhile,
Sir.
you got it
Yeah.
back on again.
हम तो सिर्फ
बोलिए सर, बोलिए. खान साहब बोलिए. But don't cite the example of Saudi Arabia.
राहुल जी देखिए ये
ये मत
देश
करिए.
में ना
ये
no, I am not saying 21st country might be Saudi Arabia, but there are countries right from Kuwait, Bahrain, UAE,
कुवैत,
each
बहरीन,
and every
बामियान
country.
बुद्धास को
Come on, those
अफगानिस्तान
were
वालों ने उड़ा
unwanted,
दिया.
deplorable,
They are in
blasphemous
power right
comments.
now. They are
It were
killing.
uncalled for.
Pakistan has wiped out
Sir,
every
we give
minority.
wheat to them. Why
No,
don't you say
Pakistan
this?
has wiped out every minority.
50 metric tons of wheat. 50 metric tons of wheat is sent by India
Yeah, 1 minute.
to Afghanistan.
No, 1
Or
second.
because
Dr.
वो सवारी को पनाह दे
Dr.
रहे हैं.
Ranganathan
Why
is
don't
showing
you
us
stop?
something. Yes, what are you showing us,
If
Dr.
you could
Ranganathan?
kindly- Yes, thank you very much. This is the problem with people like Razak. They lie blatantly on television. This is verbatim. The quote of Mr. Razak on Times Now.
Oh
On
my
Times
God.
Now. Madhav was there. Can you read it? Let me read it for you.
Yes, I can see
I would
it.
definitely not condemn Kamlesh Tiwari's beheading. He deserves this fate.
Oh my God. This is what you said, Razak Khan Saab? ये आपने बोला?
This is Abdul Razak. And Madhav, you can see Madhav on there.
Hold it.
Hold it.
जंतर मंतर पे खड़के अश्विनी उपाध्याय बीजेपी लीडर मुल्ले काटे जाएंगे राम राम
वो तो गलत
चिल्लाएंगे
है.
क्या
वो
action
तो
हो गया
गलत
उन
है.
पर?
वो तो बहुत
क्या
गलत
action हो गया?
है. मगर आप मुझे बताइए.
सर, स्वामी
by that same
नरसिंहानंद
Sir,
स्वामी
no, let me.
नरसिंहानंद
One minute,
सुनिए ना.
one minute. Don't
राहुल
try
जी
to now
सुनिए.
draw
राहुल
these
जी
false
सुनिए.
equivalences. What do you
स्वामी
stand for?
नरसिंहानंद, Swami Narsinganand and his bloodthirsty, herd of Swamijis called for a massacre. What happened?
Mr. Sai Deepak
What
wants to
happened?
come in. Jay Sai Deepak
Sir,
wants
इस
to
देश
come
में
in.
freedom of speech है.
What about Abdul Owaisi? What about his statements? The man was let scot-free after evidence was produced, including the translations of his speech, only on the ground that the woman, the lady, the head of the department of the Urdu department in Hyderabad, who gave the translation, did not watch the video. Therefore, her translation, which accurately captured his speech, was rejected as the basis for conviction for convicting Mr. Owaisi. These kind of people have gotten away with all kinds of statements. And the worst part about Mr. Khan's statement is he says that Nupur's statement was callous and that she was making the statement to provoke a reaction. I'm sorry. The context of a statement must be reinforced in the public memory. Mr. Rahmani, who's fled the public scene ever since that particular interview, who's dared not to come for a single interview, was the one who shot out an extremely blasphemous statement with respect to the shivling at Gyanvapi Mosque, or rather Gyanvapi Mandir. That was the context in which Nupur had to retort. And so far, nobody's been able to correct or nobody's been able to deny the factual correctness of her statement.
She came to Times Now with an intention.
Listen,
she did not have the Times Now with an intention. On what basis?
Listen, 1 second.
That day,
1 second, Razak Khan. Now, 1 second. I asked you a very simple question and look at the whataboutery here. 1 second. Let me bring in Mr. Vikraman. Vikraman S, spokesperson of the VCK. He's also raising his hand. Ratan Sharda ji is here and I want to bring him in. First, Ratan Sharda ji, please wait your turn, sir. I had asked after Mr. Khan, Mr. Ratan Sharda, this question also. I just want to go back to this question. Ratan Sharda ji, do you believe that the sustained targeting of Nupur using Sartan Se Juda and the very fact that the Supreme Court has chosen to blame her for this beheading spree that has taken place has mainstreamed this intolerance? It's a very simple question.
Rahul, first of all, let me remind this Abdul Razak that Kamlesh Tiwari happened before Ashwini Upadhyay. It happened before Dharma Sansad. It happened before Nupur Sharma. So let's not try to normalize these things. I compliment Justice Dhingra for being so blunt. The most important telling remark of his was, bench showed prejudice. What worse can remark be against the justices of Supreme Court that a retired judge can clearly say there was prejudice? Did they just forget that Nupur Sharma was not there when Swami Shraddhanand was killed because he was running a Shuddhi movement? Was Nupur Sharma around when Mahashay was killed for publishing a book in response to insult to Bhagwan Krishna? Was Nupur Sharma around during Charlie Hebdo? Was she around when direct action took place by Muslim League? And what was the shootout of arson in Denmark, UK, France, Sweden, Norway. The kind of demands that are coming up from the secular Islamist lobbies remind me of the approach of our people in the name of secularism. I'll give one quote. Hindus must find the causes of Muslim fanaticism. They will find that they are not to blame, Muslims. They have hitherto not cared for the Muslims. I have just changed Mopla word to Muslim.
Yes.
It is no use now becoming angry with Moplas or Muslims or the Muslims in general. He went on to say that what Moplas did was a religion. And about Maulana Mohani, why I'm saying all this, that we have always supplicated to the Maulanas, to the Maulvis, and never heard the voice of modern Muslim. He said, it's my advice to Malabar friends not to mind Maulana. In spite of his amazingly crude views about religion, there is no greater national or great lover of Hindu-Muslim unity. This kind of appeasement began long back, Rahul, and today what issues were being raised during the partition, before partition, Sharia above law, special privilege for Muslim, job reservation Muslim are being raised again. So did we sacrifice 2 million people? Did we sacrifice the family of 200 million for the sake of same kind of atmosphere that was created in during 47, 46? This is the crucial question. And about Nupur Sharma, why she got the judgment, let me humbly say that she got the justice because the Supreme Court had given Mohammed Zubair the justice, who was prime accused for instigating the riots. Supreme Court did not take cognizance of Taslim Rahmani. I was present in the debate. For 2 weeks we had heard abuse, insult, ridicule of Hindus, but no Hindu picked up gun, no Hindu picked up sword. They went to the courts. Despite this, judges made these comments, and that resulted in what Anand has listed out the names of people who are killed. Are we ever going to feel guilty about this kind of false secularism, of this false kinds of approach to the entire law and order, where we say that I will be offended, I will take to streets, but you as Hindus, even if you talk about this, you are blasphemous, you are liable to prosecuted, you have created genocide.
On
that
that
is the kind
point,
of talk. Tell me, what are the
One
reasons of
second.
hijab, a local school issue to be raised to international levels?
On
Did
that
any
point,
of these panelists ever, how many panelists
Rahul, we have
condemned
very
Sir
clear-
1 minute, sir.
How many panelists
Let him
said
finish.
Mohammed Zubair is
Belong
equally
to BJP.
responsible? He was facilitated.
Okay,
He
let me bring in Jai Sai Deepak
given
on this point.
garments. He got international coverage.
Mr.
That is our tragedy.
Jai Sai Deepak, I know what's going to happen. Now that Justice Dhingra has accused the bench of prejudice, some 20 people will line up. They will file contempt petitions against him, against this channel, against me personally, etc. I know how this works. It's a very, very, well orchestrated attempt at muzzling the voice of anyone who chooses to dissent and speak to power. So I understand how that is going to play out. Of course, there was freedom of speech. They were extolled for freedom of speech when a bunch of JNU louts in 2016 accused the Supreme Court of judicial murder in sentencing Afzal Guru to hang. That was, I'm sorry, Dr. Ranganathan, I know that, you are you teach some of these chaps, but I'm sorry, in my book, they're louts. And they behave like louts that night. They behave like louts. This is not in any way a reflection on the professors there. So please, but I just want to bring in Jai Sai Deepak. Jai Sai Deepak, I want to ask you, Justice Dhingra is going to be harangued, and I will perhaps be targeted, and so will the channel. So I want to ask you, is there a case here for contempt? Let's ask that, because, let's nip it in the bud if it is.
So let me first give people a clear picture of who Justice Dhingra is. He is one of the few members, gutsy members of the judiciary, when he was still on the bench. He went ahead and passed judgments against rank criminals to grave peril to his life, and he was actually given security, additional security to protect himself, and he did not change his verdict. Okay? So I don't think people need to worry about Justice Dhingra, because I think he can defend himself and he knows exactly what he's doing. But should it come to, let's say, that here I state on public record, I am happy to represent Justice Dhingra free of charge in any forum should he be harangued for contempt of court.
Wonderful.
And I say this without a degree of being facetious. I am as serious as I can get as a lawyer. So the point I'm trying to make is according to me, there is no case made out here because, look, the people are entitled to draw their own inferences, especially with respect to two set of instances. In fact, I don't even think Zubair's case is comparable to Nupur Sharma's because I think Zubair's case is worse than Nupur Sharma's. Okay? In such a situation, if he gets multiple hearings and assume for a moment that the court sticks to the mandate before it as far as what was the petition filed before the court by Zubair is concerned, the simple question that people are entitled to ask is, what is missing here and what is it that Nupur has done which did not merit the same kind of clinical treatment within the bounds of the law? That's a question that people are entitled to ask and answer. If the Contempt of Courts Act is going to be wielded in this fashion as the sword of Damocles to even stifle people from raising questions with respect to the manner in which, let's say, certain orders are passed in comparable matters and let's say in worser matters, so to speak, then what remains of the Republic's right to hold the judiciary to account? You can't appoint. You don't have a say in appointing. You can't ask about assets. You can't criticize. Then what are we supposed to do? Surrender like the people before Reformation, before the Catholic Church? Well, that led to the Reformation. So all I would like to say is that it's important for everybody to realize that the higher you go in let's say in the ladder of power, the responsibility on your part to actually take criticism comes along with it. No other judiciary in a comparable jurisdiction in what we call fashionably called civilized jurisdiction expect judges or let's say members of the judiciary to be shielded from any kind of criticism. Let me say this. The questions raised by Justice Dhingra are with respect to the manner in which a particular matter has been discharged or the manner in which a particular matter has been disposed or handled. This has got nothing to do with any kind of personal conduct. Okay? So contempt would be in a situation where you're looking at the personal conduct as opposed to looking at the manner in which a particular, let's say, duty has been discharged while sitting on the bench. If that particular conduct is not amenable to any kind of scrutiny by the Republic, then I might as well say that we are in for the tyranny of the unelected.
Okay. Very quickly, Mr. Vikraman, on this point, Justice Dhingra, I'll come back to you, Doctor. Justice Dhingra said very, very clearly, look, some sort of a revocation, rectification were his words. Urgent rectification steps are required. Are you in agreement with him?
No, what the Supreme Court has observed is totally its own contour. And if somebody is questioning that, let them go and question it. Let them invite contempt or whatever they want. And Supreme Court observation in Nupur Sharma case, earlier observations were totally correct.
Correct.
But now we are surprised and shocked why this debate is all about the observations and not about the Nupur Sharma and the bias of Supreme Court towards Nupur Sharma and other Hindutva fanatics, and not on somebody like Mohammed Zubair, who has done nothing actually. Like earlier, somebody was talking as if like Mohammed Zubair was a terrorist. He was not even a terrorist. And what he has done was just retweeting something which was happened like ages ago. Like in 2018 tweet, he has just retweeted, and you call him a terrorist. And you want JNU students to be called something else. You have been naming them, and I don't understand what you have named them because that was in Hindi.
The word is loud.
No, it's not a Hindi word, sir. It's an English word.
What did you say? What did you say?
Louts.
Louts, yeah. So you were like calling them by names.
No, I was not calling all JNU students. I was referring to a bunch of 5 or 6 students.
What is wrong? What is wrong with the citizens of this country to question and criticize its own judiciary? Its own,
we should not.
That's exactly what we are doing as far as Nupur's case is concerned. Thank you.
You are not criticizing. You are just being biased. You are just the total argument, the total discussion is being.
I'm sorry. The judges of the Supreme Court are called murderers.
And the person in red T-shirt, the person in red T-shirt in this debate, I don't get his name. that gentleman.
Sir,
was
can I ask
saying
you this question?
that, no, that
Mr.
gentleman
Vikraman,
was
one
saying
minute.
Even read the
Mr.
headline.
Vikraman, what would you call those people who call the justices of the Supreme Court judicial murderers, judicial executioners? What would you call them?
The case is still subsidized in Supreme Court. How could he call
Look at this chap.
Gyanvapi a mandir?
Look at this chap. Look at this chap. Look
What
at
is
this
this
guy's
chap? Can I call
limited
you
understanding.
chap, Mr. Rahul?
Yes, yes. You
decency.
do, sir. You've called me worse in a previous debate. So I'm
don't
only
do that.
giving back to you in your own coin. Now, I just want to
I
ask
never
you,
did
Mr.
that.
Vikraman, listen to me. Listen to me. You say that we should not criticize the judges. Fair enough, sir. Then would you accuse 3 individuals who were brought to trial, Kanhaiya Kumar and 2 others, for precisely doing exactly that? They said that Afzal's death penalty amounted to a judicial execution, a judicial murderer. In effect, the justices were murderers. Would you rubber stamp what they said?
I'm saying what is wrong in criticizing the judgments. I'm not saying
Right. Now this is
criticizing
about the
judges.
judgment.
I'm
Wow.
talking about
Sir,
the judgments.
Look, I have
That
to
was
give
only
you,
an
I have to
arbiter
give you
dictum.
100 on 100
No,
in
no,
the
that
deft
was an
manner in
arbiter
which you
dictum
change the
by the Supreme
goalpost.
Court.
I can't win this debate,
no,
sir.
no.
You're right.
No,
You are winning this debate hands down. I am granting it to you. Brilliant. I love the way you're like Pele. Absolutely
No.
nutmegged me there. Brilliant.
You
Good
have
job.
not-
Good
no,
job.
you have not
Fantastic.
understood
Let
what
me
I
go
was trying to
across.
say.
Let me go across to Tawseefur Rahman and ask him the same question. Mr. Rahman, same question that I asked Mr. Vikraman. Do you believe that the manner in which Nupur Sharma was dealt with on July 1st was not or amounts to crossing the Lakshman Rekha? Simple.
Sir, I'll not cross your question or go beyond anything. But, you know, like I'm sitting from past 55 minutes and I've been listening that Nupur Sharma has not got some justice or what she has done actually. I mean, she's totally fine. One of the gentlemen around like 40 minutes before, very senior to me, and he said like, it's absolutely fine, whatever she quoted, it's a fact. But I understand that she has powers. That's why she has said such, I mean, deliberate words against one religion or one religion's prophet. And you know, people are having their own speculation ki kya sach hai, kya galat hai, boli to sakti thi, and such thing happened. But why don't we discuss, or why don't I say, it's my opinion, that she's a criminal? And whatever she said orally, or wherever she is, like whatever debate it was a debate on Times Now, and I don't want to blame the anchor. The anchor has its own job, the panelist has its own job, but we cannot go beyond our limits. Even we have seen Ramayana, Mahabharata growing in India, and we have seen many funny incidents in Ramayana, Mahabharata, but we don't have to question, we don't have those rights to question anyone.
Why?
We can't
But
question
what is
anyone.
wrong?
So we are
But what
staying
is
in a
wrong?
country
But what
where
is wrong
someone
with
says
questioning?
such words and still we are supporting that woman. But if someone eats something, gets mob lynched.
Want to comment on somebody else's
Gets mob
religion?
lynched. Rahul sir, I'm not telling you.
It might be funny. to
Sir,
you.
I'm not telling
It
you.
is
Sir, I'm
religious for
talking
those
on my
people.
own behalf,
And
sir.
then
I have my own opinion.
it might
I
be
have my own
funny to
rights.
you.
People
Whosoever
in
you're
India
saying,
praying
you are
on
talking
street
about a
are
majority.
getting
Religious
merciless
people.
death.
It is religion for them. How dare
No,
you?
Because
no,
it is an
sir, it's
encroachment
not
of public
about
space, a
majority or
deliberate and
minority.
encroachment of a public
It is
space.
about
You don't
someone's
have the right
asked
to
and
perform namaz
belief.
on the streets.
Your religion to you.
And you know
My
how
religion is-
easily
Mr.
Nupur
Rahman,
Sharma,
Mr. Rahman, I am not
just went
speaking.
away.
Right to
One
I
minute,
mean,
don't
all
everyone's
the
failure.
FIR.
One second. Mr. Rahman, I have not said a word. It is Mr. Khan who is speaking. It is not me. It is Mr. Khan who is speaking. ये तो McAdams moment हो गया live national TV पे. Sir, आप देखिए. We've run out of time on this debate, viewers. We've run out of time. The fact is, yeah, doctor, very quickly, yes.
Very
Yes.
quickly, with due respect, we've had this wonderful discussion. In fact, on this panel, I won't be wrong in saying that there are 2.5 Muslims. There are 2 real Muslims and half. मैंने कलमा नहीं पढ़ा, लेकिन मैंने इतनी कुरान वगैरह पढ़ ली है कि मैं इसको आधा कह सकता हूँ. The fact of the matter is Can anyone on this panel dispute that what Nupur quoted was derived from the Hadith, Sahih Bukhari 5134 and Sunan Nasai 3378?
Okay, let that matter now. Now that matter heads to the court, viewers. So I'm not going to presage. We were just trying to get to whether, many people, viewers, on the 10th said, oh, Nupur has finally got justice. This is a great moment. This is a supreme vindication, etc. I didn't see it that way for the reasons that Justice Dhingra as well as J. Sai Deepak have explained, and others like Dr. Ranganathan have expounded upon, and of course Ratan Sharda has put in perspective. So viewers, you can take it away and think about it, all these comments. We've started a conversation. You can continue it in your drawing rooms. I leave it at this. Thank you very much.